Okay, I wanted to end today's show talking a little bit more about Oklahoma State. And if you've missed it, over the last couple weeks, I have spoken a little bit about the Cowboys on this podcast because the NCAA just dropped a bomb on them. And to be honest with you guys, I just don't think it was really fair to everything and everyone in this Oklahoma State program. And it's interesting because a couple announcements have been made by Oklahoma State players in regards of whether they're going to come back or not. And Cade Cunningham, the big one, is still in the air. So I just wanted to review those with you guys once again and talk a little bit more about everything currently going on surrounding the Oklahoma State program and my opinion once again on this whole thing. So if you guys missed it, Issac Likeley, who was probably Oklahoma State's best player last year, he actually missed a decent amount of game time with mono, and you could clearly tell that the Cowboys were just not the same team without him. And I think if him and Cade Cunningham would have played together this season, that team could have been a top 25 team. I'm dead serious, man. Likely is that good. You could ask any Oklahoma State fan. They'll tell you, man, the kid's just a beast. And I'm going to give him credit for coming back to Oklahoma State. And I'll also say this. Yor Anei, the big man who actually just announced the other day that he's going to be leaving, I'm not going to get on him either. Like, I totally understand the NCAA screwed Oklahoma State, and it's not Oklahoma State's fault that the NCAA unfairly punished them. But at the same time, like, Yor Anei, he's going to be a senior. He wants to play in the NCAA tournament. And when it's June and you're in the middle of the pandemic, as ridiculous as the NCAA is with this decision and punishing Oklahoma State with it, like, I understand. You want to play in the NCAA tournament. That's really why you play college basketball. And for a kid like Yor Anei, who is stuck with this Oklahoma State program over the last couple of years, I totally understand where he's coming from with the decision to leave. But what I also will say is this. I think Issac Likeley's decision to come back does say a lot about this Oklahoma State program. And I think a couple people are going to react weirdly and get a little confused by that because Mike Boynton, I had him ranked number 10 in terms of the Big 12 coaches rankings. And I just told you guys, the only reason why I had Mike Boynton at number 10, ironically enough, doesn't have anything to do with this scandal. It's just the fact that when you look at the Cowboys, he's never brought them to an NCAA tournament. And he's a young coach. I think one day, will he eventually lead the Cowboys to the tournament? Yes. As a matter of fact, I'll say it again. If Cade and Issac Likeley would have both been in a Cowboy uniform this season with Yor Anei, I think the Cowboys would have made the tournament this season. And as a matter of fact, could have done some serious damage in the NCAA tournament. And when you look at where their program is right now, I think Issac Likeley coming back does say a lot about Mike Boynton and the direction he has his program going in. And as I said earlier, just now, I had Mike Boynton ranked number 10 in my Big 12 coach power rankings. But even with that being the case, I'm not saying Mike Boynton's a bad coach. I think even with this scandal, he has them going in the right direction, and he's done as good a job he can, it looks like to me, in trying to keep this program together. When a star guard like Issac Likeley, who would have been immediately eligible, right, as a grad transfer, is just like, yeah, I'm coming back. Does it suck we can't play in the NCAA tournament next year? Yeah, but I still love this team. I still love the culture Mike Boynton has built. I still love the atmosphere around this team. To me, that says a lot about Mike Boynton as a head coach and the current state of the Oklahoma State program. Now, a bunch of you guys have asked me, Zach, what is your take on Cade Cunningham? Do you think he's going to play college basketball? Do you think he's going to go to the G League? What's the deal? And it's interesting because I didn't actually know this until the other day, but Mike Boynton and Oklahoma State were actually the first school to recruit Cade Cunningham when he was like a freshman or sophomore and when no one really knew about him. What most people were saying, including me, was that the main reason why Cade Cunningham decided to go to Oklahoma State in the first place was because his brother's a coach, and it makes all the sense in the world. And off the bat, does it at least have somewhat of a reason to be like why he ended up there? Yeah, no doubt. I think if Cade Cunningham's brother was an assistant coach at another school, is there a legit shot that he could be somewhere else right now at another school? Absolutely. But at the same time, the more and more I've examined this situation, I don't think Cade Cunningham is going to transfer. And you could, take what you want out of his list of his final 5 schools when he committed to Oklahoma State coming out of high school. I remember Kentucky was on there. I believe Florida was on there, Auburn maybe. So there were Kansas as well. There were a bunch of schools that before he committed to Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham was considering. But I just can't see him transferring because it's one or the other. I mean, if he really wants to play in the NCAA tournament, can he go to a Kansas? Can he go to Kentucky and form like a super team there? Absolutely. I could see why he would want to do that. But at the same time, with his brother being at Oklahoma State and Issac Likeley announcing he's coming back, even if the Cowboys can't play in the NCAA tournament, the more and more I evaluate the situation, I actually think Cade Cunningham is going to come back to Oklahoma State and play in Stillwater this season. And I think that is just going to send a message to a lot of people in the college basketball industry. And for me, if Cade Cunningham did announce that he'd be coming back to Oklahoma State, it would say a lot about him and the current state of the Oklahoma State Cowboy program, and which is a big compliment to Mike Boynton, because if you look at it, how many kids not named Cade Cunningham would have just transferred as soon as they heard the news that Oklahoma State would not be allowed to play in the NCAA tournament? It definitely would have been a lot. And I'm not criticizing Yor Anei or anyone else that decided to transfer away from the Oklahoma State program. But the fact that Cade Cunningham hasn't even announced anything yet, that he's going to the G League or going to another school, I think that does say a lot, once again, about where the Cowboy program is right now. The other thing is this. You see so many players in terms of the top-ranked high school recruits across college basketball in literally every year. You see them, especially now in 2020, really trying to prioritize just getting to the NBA as soon as possible and getting to the league, getting myself in the best spot to be successful in the league. And whether that's getting paid like Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, Deshaun Nix, doing all the things that they, decided that they wanted to do, Cade Cunningham, to me, isn't really on that same bandwagon. And I do think Cade Cunningham playing college basketball at Oklahoma State, especially at a place where they really cannot make the NCAA tournament, that would just say a lot about not only the Cowboy program, but also Cade Cunningham as a player. And when you see a couple of other kids going across to the G League and not playing college basketball, Cade Cunningham is really showing you how much he would value the college experience and how much he would value playing in one more season in college with his brother, with Issac Likeley, and playing for Mike Boynton. And I'll even say this. Let's say Oklahoma State, the ban continues to stay there, and the Cowboys are once again not eligible to play in the NCAA tournament this season, and Cade Cunningham still leads them to like a top 20 finish. Once again, the Cowboys would not play in the NCAA tournament. I think that would actually help their recruiting long term, because if recruits are looking at the situation a little more closely, they're just going to say and see, okay, the Cowboys got banned from the NCAA tournament. That program got in trouble with the FBI. They're not really that big of a powerhouse program to begin with, so why would I go there to begin with? But if you're seeing that Mike Boynton, even with them getting banned from the tournament, is getting players to return to school, and if they were to be successful, that would put Oklahoma State in a really good spot in terms of recruiting. Also, what I'll say is this. I think Cade Cunningham, talent-wise, could be the closest thing we've seen over the past 10 years in college basketball to a Zion or an Anthony Davis. A lot of times when freshmen are coming out of high school, a lot of people will overhype them and say, and they'll say all these crazy things about him being the next LeBron or him being the next chosen one. I even remember people talking about Ben Simmons like that. I remember people talking about, Harry Giles. He was a former number 1 recruit. Josh Jackson, literally all those guys. And, how do they measure to a Zion? How do they measure to an Anthony Davis? And I'm telling you, man, Cade Cunningham is that good of a player. And I think, and I also said this on the podcast reaction to when Oklahoma State originally got banned from the NCAA tournament. One of the main reasons why I was really upset about it was because of the fact that Oklahoma State and the NCAA really had an opportunity to showcase how good playing college basketball is, especially for a pro career. I understand why so many people crap on college basketball, and the NCAA is a joke. I'm not arguing that. But at the same time, if a player as good as Cade Cunningham would have came to Oklahoma State, they would have made the NCAA tournament, and he would have parlayed that into a sick NBA career, kind of in the same direction, maybe a little bit less than Zion did. It would have not only helped Oklahoma State, but it would have helped the whole sport of college basketball. I think if Cade Cunningham comes back to the Cowboys and is still successful, even with them being banned from the tournament, that would be a good look for not only the Cowboys, but the rest of the sport in college basketball. And when Issac Likeley announced he was coming back, that did kind of get me thinking a little bit about this Cowboy program and the job Mike Boynton has done over the last couple of years, even with the scandal side. So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening with Cade Cunningham. If I were to predict once again, I think he does come back to Stillwater. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting decision, and I'm curious to see what happens.